I was talking about. I asked about the is how we can recognize, we can take stock of the fact that we're operating in the is, and uh, not as not in one of our bodies or on the physical or astral or whatever level of life that we are, the psychic level we are operating, normally operating. How can we take stock of this fact that we are in the is? What are some of the road signs of this recognition that we make, that we have?
Okay, what takes place on the real side and the and here, okay, which is here. It's all here. Okay, it's all now here. Everything is, and it's just, again, it's recognition. Again, Paul said it a particular way. He used certain references, like the spiritual idea and whatever. That I'll keep going back to that so people have a comparison. It's very important to have the comparison, not just being self-convinced by ideas. There's a difference. You want to learn to see the difference. So in other words, this is where your recognition starts to come in of what is taking place. So life will give you objective views, and in the real side or your dream experiences, or others seeing, what you're experiencing too. Okay, so just like the Africa one of, a couple, 3 weeks ago, where Ava had written that one out, just like Sandra's experience of 50 years in the corporation, to where an individual, did the new you and saw me on the real side, the real awareness, and I was like over, he said like 700 meters tall, which would be like about 2,200 feet tall as being of light, and I replied that what he is seeing is what I recognize, you see. And so for me in the personal self too, I pick up on these things plus what I see for myself. I listen to others, and this is where, as we are a part of, I'll call it this universal community, those that step in wholeheartedly and sincerely, they will start to see each other. So as we take this, steps further, eventually you get to the point, as we take this a step further and further, just simply imagine, if you will. And imagination is only in creation. It is not in the real universes. Again, you cannot add anything to the perfection and reality life is. You cannot add anything. This is where you can only recognize it. It's seen and being. And so, but we'll imagine here, imagine yourself as this awesome being of light, aware, like the sun shining. And you have a friend that has the recognition too, like you. He's an awesome being. He or she is an awesome being. Well, there's no he or she, but anyhow. They are an awesome being of light, like you, shining, and you're aware. And then there's many more like that. And then as you see and experience them, it's the true seeing, not with the eyes, but the true seeing of your real awareness and recognition. You recognize each other, you see? And by the very fact you do, you support each other in that recognition, you see? And this is what the is tries to present to us as we're going through this process, that we recognize it, okay? So because then as we recognize it, it recognizes us, it goes back and forth. This is where the real support is. This is why the boys stand real with themselves, the real guides, because they recognize each other. They are in a particular position, all right? This is why I created UP, Universal Positioning. It's no longer traveling or projecting or all these things. No, soul traveling, all that. It's not from here to there. It's an isness. But if you can simply imagine that you recognize someone, you recognize the real guides as free beings of real light already, and that they recognize you, that you recognize they recognize you. You see? And that recognition is very important, and that's not a consideration with your mind. It's not a literal idea. It is a true recognition. Now, I would say that for the mothers out there this lifetime that have experienced having a child, and when the baby's first born, he's kind of, most of the time he's sleeping, his eyes are looking everywhere. But at some point, as the mother's holding the child, they go eye to eye. And all of a sudden, the child is just silent and just stares. Because there is a recognition there, you see. And the parent recognizes that the child recognizes her. You see? Now, can you do better than that? Can you see to where that you are this awesome being of light, but for the most part, you don't see yourself. The sun doesn't see itself. But this is where you see yourself and others that recognize you as you recognize them. You see? More so than just the personal self. It's not that we get rid of the personal self. No, it has its purpose for whatever it is. But that'll give you a hint as what takes place. And as you really see and be this and recognize it, guess what? It's everything. Life is.
When you're talking, in this world, we often express ourselves through the mental arena. We use that a lot to operate here, to relate to things, and we could say there is a certain mental frequency that we have. So can being in the isness be recognized through a mental frequency, as a mental frequency, and at the same time as a state of beingness? Because we are bound to often maybe deprecate our use of the mental body. So can the isness be recognized as a mental frequency?
Yeah, there's many ways of saying this, but I'll just say it how I see it, and that is that yes, you can set up with your mind and your literal part, and we do. It's automatic anyhow. It just, because the subconscious takes things in and formulates. It's an automatic. It's kind of like automatic. It's like your computer when it's on, and as you're searching the internet or whatever, it's picking up things. It's picking up cookies. It's picking up whatever. You don't consciously see that, but it's picking up all kinds of things. Okay. And so this is how your five bodies are too. The subconscious picks up things and it starts to formulate it in its own way according to the individual. And yes, you can set up a mental idea. All right. Again, this is where you want to study your five bodies and really how the function is, because they're only simulators. Yes, you can set that up. And as you see this, it's good practice, because then you're going to see what the world is doing. The world has set itself up in consciousness as a simulator, thinking that the simulator is the absolute reality. And it's not. Just like the Matrix movie or whatever, thinking that, oh, this is the ultimate and we're behind the Matrix and we can see what's going on. That's a simulator too. That's like being in the astral worlds and seeing the physical world. That's all. And many people think, well, gee, now I'm in reality and that's, the physical world's illusion or whatever their idea is. Yes, you can do that. But here again, I see what's going on. And this is the fun part for me. It is the fun part. And that is that people try and, box this thing in. And it won't work. You can't do it. See, this is the old stuff. It's all boxed in. It's all boxy ideas that sound good, that look good, etc. Tradition, ancient history, ancient teachings, all these things. They're little boxes. They're just ideas. That's all. Just like a warehouse full of boxes. That's all they are. You create your warehouse. That's your consciousness. And you put all these little boxes in it. And you keep relating to these boxes as your reality. You can set up anything you want, but keep in mind that consideration that you've created is not reality itself. It's only a simulator. It's only an idea that sounds good. And this is where things start to go sideways if they're not looked at. And I see this with people, and I'm not here. I'm not the police. I don't police people. Whatever they do, it's fine. Okay, there's no rules, regulations, or guidelines here. It's like the sun shining. When you look at the sun's the best example. To learn to recognize what the sun is demonstrating is step one. And who can figure that out? Okay, then there's a lot more from there. Okay, it's endless. But the thing is that with the sun, you don't have any considerations. So the considerations of any type that you want to have, you're welcome to have them, but it has nothing to do with the true reality life is. It has nothing to do with it. But while we're here in creation, we do create from what I'm doing for me and for others. I'm creating the best references and hints I can. And like I've said, I'm not this is not a teaching. This is not a doctrine. And these are not sacred writings, or will they become so? At what point does words on paper become sacred writings? It's all really nonsense. It's just to where you can charge more for the book. You see, just like the corporation. Paul wrote the Shariat, and the old one was, $15. Now when you get the new one with the gold embroidery and the little ribbon in the middle, it's like $150. You see, you can charge more for it, which is fine. Whatever, that's business, okay? But realistically, it's the same words. Now all of a sudden they're sacred. See, this is where people continually encase and encase and encase, layer and layer and layer an idea, thinking that the more they add to it, the better it is. And especially as it gets older and becomes ancient and whatever, now it becomes ancient wisdom. That would be like collecting the LA or the New York Times for years and years and years, for thousands of years, and you got this warehouse full of these newspapers, thinking that, okay, you have value there in some way. You got nothing. It's the same thing. There's no difference between the Bible and the LA Times. It's all silly stuff. It's all cute stories, and if that's what you want, it's choice, you see? But that's it. It has nothing to do with the true reality. So what we're doing here, and this is part of, you might say, your mission, but I don't use that word because it's really corny. The missionaries have destroyed most of the world, and they're still doing it, etc. So I don't use that word, but, I use real purpose, okay? What is your real purpose? And that is as you're waking up, you can also provide something real and beneficial for others that are struggling. And this is what this is the idea of the isness, and that is to get the individual to recognize how to support it as it supports you. Very important. It's not the me thing like in the spiritual path. It's like, well, oh, I want enlightenment. Oh, I want my next initiation. oh, Master, please bless me, and all these things. See, that's the me thing. That's the personal thing. This isn't that. This here is there's a bigger picture. It's all for all. And this is the best part, to recognize this. It's just that I could do it, others couldn't. This is why the boys chose me, because very few, if any, and we got the corporation and all these things going on in the world, even the Dalai Lama and whatever, they're physical, astral, into marketing ploy and being tap-lined by the reptilians. Their choice. So here it is right now, because the is agrees to what I'm presenting. The boys agree to it because of my intent is 100% with the is. That's it. I don't have any agenda, a marketing ploy or whatever. There are no guidelines, what have you, with this. And so, yes, anybody can create their ideas. And, you know, sometimes you leap off of that. You create your own comparisons. I do that for myself. I create my own comparisons, and I utilize these things. But I pivot off my real purpose, which is the is. 100%, that comes first. And whatever the personal self is, that's what it is, okay? It's just here. But in the meantime, yes, I want to do a lot. This is why I'm doing everything I can in every which way I can to touch whoever, and taking the blows and the grunts and everything for it. And that's fine. That's all part of it. And as I'm here, I'm agitating and bothering people. Well, that's part of it too. That's part of the wake up with everything. But then again, you'll notice that certain people start creating and over creating, and it doesn't really apply to what is being presented here. And that's really none of my business. They can go do whatever they want. But this reality that I'm very centered on, I see the steps that come in. You might say the new moments that come in, and the new isness of itself, you see, because that's a recognition. And I refer things accordingly, but overall I'm doing the projects so that more people have opportunities to wake up, because it's about that. And every time a person wakes up, you know, it's just like Sandy came in and she wrote that note. And even without her permission, I took the risk. We couldn't get a hold of her. I said, you know, Ava, you know what, make an image, okay, according to kind of what she's talking about, the bluebirds and whatever, okay? So Ava makes the image, and we put it out there. That's this individual, her and others that wholeheartedly and sincerely step up, there becomes a recognition there, doesn't there? And from there, it's not a growing thing. It becomes to where you become more aware. That's really a better way of saying it, instead of unfoldment, spiritual growth, and all this. We're not plants or flowers, okay, or trees or whatever, and these things are wonderful. No, it's our real awareness. We're simply recognizing we're becoming more aware. And the old ideas of growth and unfoldment, spiritual this and whatever, that's in creation. Those are ideas. And so again, most people cannot see the difference between their real awareness and ideas. Most people can't even get to their intuition, which is part of the mind, but it's still not your real awareness to where you gain insight. You should learn to recognize your intuition to where you gain insight to eventually recognize your real awareness. It is that unique awesomeness that is flawless, but you need to recognize it. And so again, that's why I give the sun idea. And I would say practice recognizing what the sun is demonstrating, not just looking at the sun. You know, people used to think the sun was God, okay, which is fine. They started off somewhere, you know, and through lifetimes, eventually they figured it out that, well, gee, you know, the sun isn't God. The sun is the sun. But the sun is an excellent demonstration, and we're very fortunate to have a sun on this world and to see it every day, because it is a reminder of what the is. It demonstrates that. It is not the is, but then again, it is, you see. So again, this is the paradox. So you decide how you're going to recognize this, and that recognition is endless. It's not that, oh, I get it. It's that aha moment. No, some people think that. No, there are no limitations. As soon as you say, "Oh, I got it," well, you've seen it for that moment, that flash, but yet it's endless. So it's at a point to where all of a sudden you realize, and this is where the boys are in Standing Real within themselves, their true selves, their real awareness, and that is there are no considerations about anything. You don't need the mental, the emotional, all these things. You can utilize them, but you no longer need it. And so this is where the world, you might say, has led itself astray, especially with the happiness and the love idea and the feelings that supposedly are to go with everything. So again, yes, those are things that you decide, just like when you're driving in your car, you decide to put on the air conditioning or not. Okay, it doesn't usually just come on. It's part of the car. It's part of the vehicle, but you decide, or the heater. You decide to put those on, the heater or the air conditioning, right? You decide to flip the switch. And so as you look at the sun, do you see belief there? Do you see happiness? Do you see joy? Do you see anything? No. There's more than that. It's bigger than that. It's endless. It's an isness. But if you want to add the happiness and the feeling and the joy, fine. But for the most part, what happens, and you see the world how it is, the world is thinking in its own way, one-dimensionally, that love and happiness and being in la-la land in their own way is going to heal the world. Well, it's not doing, isn't it? Is it going to stop the chemtrail pilots? Is it going to stop the GMO? Is it going to stop the mind control microwaves? No matter how much love, emotional feelings, really what it is, sensation, this is love. Real love is isness. That's where you're totally free of everything. And so that's a big decision to decide that universal positioning and stand in it. Yes. So very few will do that because they will be afraid that, oh, the personal self will just poof, vanish. Guess what? No, it won't. But you'll see the difference between the two, and every moment you decide. You want to stand in that personal self and what it decides, or do you want to recognize what makes sense and it's a benefit for everyone? You decide.